So this is the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, which I've used for about a month now. And if you are watching this video, then you're probably in the market deciding on whether you want to buy this phone or another phone from Samsung, or maybe a different Android altogether. One thing that I can say about this phone is that it's definitely changed my perspective on whether or not you need to shell out, over $1,000 to buy a flagship phone, or if it really makes sense to buy a mid-range. And I promise you, the title isn't clickbait. There is definitely one flaw with this phone that has changed my overall user experience, but I think most people will be able to overlook that and really enjoy using this phone. There's a number of full reviews on YouTube already for this phone, so I'm not going to go into all the details. What I can say is that yes, it does look very nice. It has a very nice design. It feels good to hold. It's very light. One thing that I don't like so much, which doesn't matter to most people because they're going to have a case on it anyways, is just how easily it does show fingerprints. But looking at the specs of the phone in no particular order: 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a 6.5 inch Super AMOLED, 120 hertz, 800 nits brightness display. You've got a triple camera setup on the back. The internal chip is the Exynos 1280. And then in terms of the internal storage, you've got 128 or 256 gig, and then 4, 6, or 8 gigs of RAM, depending on obviously which version you buy. So overall, very good specs. I guess one major thing that people consider when they buy a cell phone is how great is it at taking pictures. So I've actually gone through, and it was on my TikTok account. However, I did a comparison between the video of the A53 5G and video from my 13 Pro Max. And there's over 30,000 views on that video. And I think 9,000 people voted that the camera quality looked better on the A53 5G than it did on the iPhone. Now, this was a blind test, so people were being genuine in their choice just based on the saturation, the way the colors looked, the exposure, etc. However, the iPhone did win in terms of the overall audio. So just bear that in mind when you're trying to decide, is this camera going to be enough for you? Now, onto the title of the video. The one major flaw of this phone was surprising to me. So when buying this phone, if you remember from the spec list, I said it has a 120 hertz high refresh rate display. Now, that was a feature that was very highly sought after when it came to flagship phones, having that high refresh rate. We saw a lot of 90 hertz, and then it went up to 120 in the last year and a half. With this phone being a mid-range phone, I was very excited to see that it had that 120 hertz screen refresh rate. Now, the issue with that spec and this phone in particular is the fact that it's not running a Snapdragon chip. It's running that Exynos, which historically has been a lot worse than the Snapdragon, and then coupled with the lower RAM than usual, it creates some issues. So yes, it is a high refresh rate screen. However, the Exynos chip isn't able to keep up. So when I'm scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through a text heavy page, you notice that the chip starts to lag behind. You get a very jumpy screen. It gets stuck on certain parts. So it defeats the whole purpose of having a high refresh rate screen if the internals aren't able to keep up and actually generate that image without skipping and buffering through text. If you're not going to be able to have the internals to support a 120 hertz refresh rate screen, maybe dumb it down to 90, because most people can't tell the difference between 90 and 120 anyways. Now, is that going to be a deal breaker for the average person buying this phone? Probably not, because like I said, it takes great photos. It has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, so they advertise it as 2-day battery life. I didn't get 2 days out of it because I play games on it. I do other things, I guess, that are intensive on the battery. But if you are someone that just makes phone calls, sends text messages, maybe reads a couple articles, whatever have you, then I could see it stretching closer to that 2-day advertised rate of charge. But I think for most people, you're definitely gonna get over a day, and that's gonna be more than good enough for the average person. So again, a very great phone. Didn't want to go into all the details and specs because you can find that everywhere else on YouTube. But one thing that seemed to be overlooked in the number of videos was just talking about that Exynos chip and the fact that it's not able to keep up with what's advertised in this phone. So that's pretty much it for the A53 5G. If you've got any questions about this phone, leave them down below. I'll be sure to answer them. Thank you again for watching. Much love as always, throwing up 2 of them, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.